Sometimes things can go really wrong in the world of photography, and that's what this episode is all about. It's only fitting that yesterday's podcast, the audio did work. Life is full of surprises. So let's try this again. Here's the real version of this week's podcast, all about all the things that go wrong in the world of photography. What's the craziest photography story you've ever heard? Well, sit back. I've got a few for you. You're listening to the Master Your Lens podcast, episode 192, part 2.
Hey, John Lee Dumas here, the founder and host of EO Fire, and welcome to the Master Your Lens podcast, the photography podcast dedicated to sharing inspiring stories, technical tips, and powerful secrets to help you become a better photographer. And now, your host, Matthew Jordan Smith.
Hello, Photography Nation. I hope you're safe and having a great time wherever you are in the world. Today, I've got a lot of stories I want to share with you. But first, I want to ask you a question. Who's the highest paid American TV actress? I'll give you a hint. She's from a modern family, and she speaks with a very thick accent. Well, if you don't know, I'm talking about Sofia Vergara, and she has been the highest paid American TV actress for the last 7 years in a row. If you've watched the show Modern Family, you've seen Sofia Vergara. She's still stunning. Today, I want to tell you a story about a situation that happened on a photo shoot with Sofia Vergara. Now, this was years ago in New York City. It's the week before Christmas, and I'm doing my last shoot for the year. I remember this job like it was yesterday. The job was a cover story and an inside story on Sofia. At the time, she was the Latin heartthrob, and very fast becoming a big deal. I must say, the moment she walked in the studio, I think my heart skipped a beat. I mean, she was stunning and still is. We did a lot of different images. It was a full day shoot. She came out of hair and makeup looking fantastic. And when she got on set, she was just incredible. It was a fun day. I mean, everything went amazingly well. Every picture, every set, she was funny, she was sexy, she was beautiful. And then the day ended. And my entire crew, my clients, everybody's on cloud 9. It's the week before Christmas. It's the last job of the year. And I'm shooting Sofia Vergara. This day I was on top of the world. She leaves. My client's really happy. We're talking it all up. My crew, my assistants, they're packing everything up, all the gear. We were shooting in a small studio. I loved this studio because it was intimate, and that intimate studio made way for a great shoot. But this is New York City, and it's a very small elevator. I'm saying goodbye to my clients, and me and my crew are by the elevator about to go down. Now, by small elevator, I mean it was so small, only 3 people could fit in the elevator at a time. And we had a lot of gear. So my 2 assistants and all the gear go down first, and I go down next. I say goodbye to my clients. We're all so happy thinking about the day. The elevator comes up, I jump in and go downstairs. Now, this is maybe 2 minutes from the time my assistants go downstairs and the elevator comes back up for me to go down. I get downstairs and my assistants look like a bomb went off. I'm like, what's going on? In the time between my assistants going downstairs and me going downstairs. My assistants, my crew, were robbed at gunpoint. First and foremost, thank God my crew was fine. Shaken up, but fine. This is the 90s in New York City. And this building was known for photo crews going up with a lot of gear, and of course going down with a lot of gear. And that day, my crew was robbed. They got all my cameras, all my lenses. Luckily, what did I have on me? All the film. I did say this was the 90s. All I can say is thank God for insurance. And also, I'm really happy that I had the film on me, which was rare. Normally, my team would have everything on them, the cameras, the gear, the film, everything. But for some reason that day, I had the film on me. And thank God, because even today, when I look back on that shoot, I still love all of the images. The magazine ran the cover. It was a great story. But even until this day, when I see those pictures of Sofia Vergara in my archive, I think about that day. A lot of crazy things can happen in the world of photography. And today I want to share just a few of the crazy stories that have happened throughout my career. Yes, there have been many. But the one I want to tell you about next is happening right now. I spoke with a photographer last week. He's in LA. And he was telling me about a client who had contacted him for a job. The client was in Montreal, saw his work online, and loved his work. This photographer is fairly new, but he was shocked that this client contacted him via email for this shoot. It was a fairly big job. And at first, he contacted me wanting to know how he should go about handling this type of client. The client's in Montreal, and the client says, "We have a limited budget, but we love your work and we'd like to hire you to do this job. It's a fashion brand in Montreal." The client says, "We have the models that we want you to use, and we have the agency we want you to deal with." The models and the agency are in LA. By happenstance, the photographer is from Montreal, and he'd heard of this fashion brand. Now, so far, everything is via email, which is not unusual at first. But they tell him they only have a small budget, and the context of the email is only about the budget. No conversation about creative at all. And the budget for everything is $2,500. That's for models. That's for hair, for makeup, for going on location, getting permits. The $2,500 can be gone just in that alone. So I asked him to confirm with the client, is that his fee or is that the fee and the expenses? Also, what's the usage? How will it be used? Well, he emails them back and hears nothing. So he forgets about it. After a week or two, they contact him again and they say, "We've changed the rate. We're going to increase your rate and pay all the expenses." So now the job is going from $2,500 to $11,000. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that sounds much better in terms of the rate, but that never happens where a client goes from $2,500 to $11,000. Red flag number one. Then the photographer hears from the modeling agency via email, and the agency says, "Yes, we know the client. However, we require payment up front." I'm like, okay, something doesn't seem right. So this photographer says it doesn't feel right because they have talked nothing about creative. They haven't mentioned one thing about the images, about the wardrobe, nothing. All they've talked about is getting paid right away. He hasn't even seen a picture of one model. Now, for very big jobs, it's not uncommon for photographers to put out money to produce a job. But normally, you only do that with a client who you've worked with for a long time. And you have something called a PO, a purchase order, meaning that the client's going to pay you. But this job just felt weird all the way around. So the photographer decides he's going to look up this client, turns to Instagram, finds the client, and sends a message. This is where things get interesting. The client responds right away and says, "Please be aware, this is a scam. Do not send any money to the modeling agency. This is a scam. Somebody's pretending to be me and pretending to be a modeling agency. This is a scam." And they've tried this on several photographers. What's really scary is the person who's behind the scam, they know about the fashion industry and know that it's not uncommon for photographers to put out money to produce a job. Maybe you're wondering what the scam is. The scam on this one was the supposed client and the supposed modeling agency are a team working together. The scam is to get the photographer to pay for the expenses up front, thinking that they're going to be reimbursed for the expenses and get their fee. In this case, they told the photographer they would pay him $11,000, but he had to put out about $8,000 of his own money before being reimbursed. Very, very scary. Now, if you think that's uncommon to put out that amount of money for a job, it's not. A lot of bigger photographers in the commercial world will do things like this. However, doing it for a first-time client, definitely not. And doing it via email only, absolutely not. And no, it's not good business to put out money ever unless you're being paid for the expenses up front. So beware. There are scammers trying to take advantage of photographers. If a brand new client wants you to put money out of your own pocket, red flag. If no one wants to get on a phone call, I know we're in the age of social media and texting and all of that, but for a job, you need to have a conversation. Another red flag, if they are only talking about money and no creative, watch out. That's a scam. Photographers, beware. For some reason, people always ask me, what's the worst job you've ever done before? It seems like people want to know what's the worst thing that could happen to a photographer. Well, I've got plenty of those stories. And for this one, I'm going to go way back. Here we are, February 2021. And this time last year, there was a very popular show on Netflix. For some reason, this show got all the attention. The show was called Tiger King. Maybe you saw it. Well, that show reminds me of a shoot that I worked on when I was a young assistant. At this time, the hot location for everybody to shoot was Miami, South Beach. This was before South Beach was the hot spot. Back then, it was the photography hot spot, and everybody from around the world came here to shoot. The Germans, the South Africans, and of course, everybody in New York was flocking to South Beach to shoot at this amazing location. I go down on a fashion shoot as part of a team, and we're shooting fashion for a catalog. We have tons of models, and on this day, we're doing a Moroccan set. So we make a Moroccan style tent. We're outside on the beach. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. We have a stylist who makes the Moroccan tent seem like you're in that part of the world. It's lush and beautiful, great colors, jewel tones, furs. It's just a beautiful set. The models are dressed in Moroccan style fashion. They look fantastic. But this day, we have a prop. 2 tigers, 1 baby tiger, and 1 full-grown tiger. This is South Beach, Miami. And we have 1 trainer. The trainer is in charge of the tigers. The first part of the day, we're shooting. Everything's going absolutely fantastic. We're using the baby tiger for a lot of the images with the models. And then the idea is to use the big tiger after lunch. The first part of the day goes amazingly well. The baby tiger's on the set with the models. And then we get all those shots done and take a break. The trainer changes to bring in the full-grown Siberian tiger into the tent. The tiger is on a chain. The trainer is saying how tame this tiger is and there's no problems, don't be afraid. And while we're setting up, he says to me, "Oh, if you want to take a picture with the tiger, jump on in." So the other assistant takes a picture of me beside the tiger. The trainer even puts a hat on the tiger. And the tiger is cool, sitting there just being a very cool, beautiful tiger. I get my Polaroid. I'm happy. The other assistant and I leave out to get more gear to bring into the tent. And as we walk out of the tent, out of the blue, the wind picks up quite a bit, to the point where it has the tent shaking quite a bit. It spooks the tiger. The tiger gets up and runs, snaps the chain like it's nothing, runs right past us, and jumps on the roof of the trainer's truck. In the process, he smashes the windshield. It goes into 1,000 pieces. Now, this all takes place in like 1 second. The speed of this tiger, the power of this tiger had everybody frozen still. Now, the tiger's now sitting on top of the truck, and again, being a very cool tiger. But the windshield is shattered in 1,000 pieces, and it happened so fast and with such force. We all saw the power of this tiger, and it spooked everybody, especially me and the other assistant who had just been right by this tiger. I'll never forget this day because, thank God, the wind didn't pick up while we were in the tent with this tiger. This amazing animal barely touched the windshield and shattered it in 1,000,000 pieces. Well, needless to say, the shoot was canceled from that point on. We were all thankful that no one was in the tent when this happened. And the trainer, I'll never forget the trainer because after the tiger is on top of his truck with his shattered windshield, he is trying to pull the tiger down, and the tiger is going nowhere. Seeing that this trainer had no control over this amazing animal taught me a lesson right then and there. Stay away from wild animals. Trainer or no trainer, I'm not going by any wild animals, period. And when things go bad, they can go really bad really fast. Now I have one more story for you. This is not at all the last of the stories, but I think this is enough for today. This was my last job working as a photo assistant. As a matter of fact, I had stopped working as an assistant. I had begun to get work as a photographer, and I was trying to break away from assisting altogether. So I was turning all the jobs down to be a photo assistant. But this one photographer, I'd worked with for a long time, and he was begging me to come on this job. At the time, I lived in New York. This photographer was in New York as well, but the job was in LA. It was a big cigarette campaign. Funny saying that today because now you don't see campaigns like that being shot. But back in the late 80s, people were still shooting cigarette campaigns in America. And these are big budget 6-figure jobs. This photographer had 2 new assistants, but wanted me on the job. Now, I'm trying not to assist anymore, but he's pleading with me to be on the job and says, you don't have to be part of production, just fly out there for the shoot. I'm like, fine, I can do that. So fast forward to the day before the photo shoot. I'm talking on the phone to the other assistants, making sure they have gotten all the gear. They'd give me a list of all the gear so I know what we have on the job. And then they all leave. I'm flying out later on by myself. Now, the timing of this job is also very interesting because things change around America. It's June 1994. I just shot a cover for a magazine, but this photographer is begging me to come and help him assist on the job. I agree. I'll fly out just for the job and then fly back so I can do pre-production on another shoot that I have coming up. But the day before is unlike any other day. You see, the day before I fly out, the news is fixed on one thing: a white Bronco going down the highway. And inside this Bronco is a man named O.J. Simpson. The entire country, everyone in America, is gripped by this story. The next day I fly out, and I am on that same highway going toward our location. The location is Bear Mountain in LA. Well, actually, Bear Mountain's about 2.5 hours outside of LA. You see, this job was being shot up in the mountains, outside at like 4 a.m. I drive up to the location, get there the night before, talk to the team, everybody's set, but also everybody's not really talking about the job. The whole crew is talking about the OJ situation. Everyone's distracted, even the photographer. That's all anybody can talk about. But the next day, we're doing this really big job. We're making fake snow on the side of a mountain because for this campaign, they wanted to be on a mountain and they wanted snow. But we're outside of LA and there's no snow, but we have fake snow. This machine's going all night long and the team needs to be up at 4 a.m. to set up for this sunrise shoot. Well, 4 a.m. comes and the whole team is out getting everything ready. I meet the 2 assistants. We have all this gear. The photographer decided to make his own sunlight, and he wanted to make it look like that early morning sunlight. Beautiful. So the lights he chose to use were HMI lights, the big movie lights, which are beautiful, and they'd be perfect for making that sunlight because they look like sunlight. I've always loved HMIs, those big, beautiful movie lights. However, as we go to set up, we have the big stands for the HMIs. We have the HMIs. And I'm looking around and I don't see any cords to plug in the HMIs to the power. So I asked the guys, oh, where's all the cords? And one of the assistants says, it should be in the back of the van. I go to the back of the van. I see a lot of gear, a lot of grip, but no cords. So I say, hey guys, I don't see any cords. Is there another van? Both of the assistants turn and look at me and say no. So I asked who got the gear. And they're telling me that, the gear was brought over to us yesterday. And the rental house, all they can talk about is OJ. Everybody's distracted. So what happened? The rental company who's giving us all the lights, they're distracted by the story as well. And in packing all the gear, they forget to put the cords in. So here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning, all this gear, a 6-figure job on the line with very expensive models, a very expensive team, and fake snow all over the mountain, and no cords for the HMIs. No lights. The photographer is freaking out. The assistants are freaking out. It's too late to call anybody because, number one, the rental store is closed. It's early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning to be precise. And we're setting up for the early morning sunrise shoot. So what do we do? The client is pissed because now the client knows that there's no cords for the lights. And we have all of this production here on the side of a mountain. We decide to use the lights of the vehicles to light the job. Now, this is nowhere close to being the look we wanted. We can't raise a car or raise vans to get the lights to the right height, but that's what we did. We used the vehicle lights to light the models. Maybe you're wondering how it looked. Well, it looked like we used car lights to light the job. A nightmare job. One that I will never forget. And one that I think about often because on a job, it's very easy for people to get distracted. And the bigger the job, the more distractions. Right now, I have a brand new intern. And on the job I did this past Sunday, I noticed that the intern was distracted. So this week, I'm planning to talk to him and tell him this story and tell him why it's so important not to be distracted. Because when you are distracted, things go wrong. Maybe there's a big event happening around the world. And because we're all human, we get distracted. This day in Los Angeles, everybody was distracted by the OJ story. And because of that, they packed the gear wrong. And what happened? We're on the side of a mountain with fake snow and no lights, trying to do a sunrise shot. There are many horror stories out there about photography. Some things you can't control, like being robbed at gunpoint. But a lot of things you can control when you stay focused. Another lesson I learned that day on the mountain, have backup. Have backup gear because you never know what can go wrong. To this day, when I do a shoot, I always order extra gear because you never know. If you're new to photography, understand this. Something will eventually go wrong. But if you are prepared, you can handle any situation in the world. That last job as a photo assistant taught me to be prepared. And being prepared has saved me time and time again. And it will do the same for you. If you'd like to learn more about lighting and photography in general, do me a favor and join the free Facebook group, Photography Lighting Ninjas. Right now, we may not be working the way we want to work, but very soon this crisis will be over and we'll all be working again. This is the time to prepare yourself, to train yourself and get ready. If you want to know more about how to become a better photographer, to really learn lighting and be prepared for any situation, join the free Facebook group, Photography Lighting Ninjas. I look forward to seeing you in there. All right, Photography Nation, that's going to do it for this episode of the Master Your Lens podcast. I look forward to seeing you back here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Always dream big. Bye for now.